The circus that is world tours throughout every summer, it seems. There are a ton of bands that are remaining active after 40 and 50 years that just don't seem to know when to quit or stop. And what happens with that is that it makes the loss of a band such as the Dillinger Escape Plan, who after 20 years is hanging it up, with Dissociation, this album we're going to be talking about today being the final real manifesto within their career. It makes this really hard to accept. It really does, considering you listen to their albums and you always constantly wonder what's going to happen next. There's sort of a hypervigilance that occurs whenever you listen to a DEP song, because if you blink or if you think about something else, if your hand starts to go a centimeter closer to your cock, you're going to miss something. That's what DEP has always brought to the table. So Dissociation, their final ode, their final nod to their fans and to the world. What does it have to offer? And this is definitely make or break, considering it's the final one. And 11 tracks, 11 rounds, if you will, for this battle. This is also one that stands as one of the lengthiest of Dillinger's career, if not the lengthiest. It's over 50 minutes. There are tracks here that course between the 4-minute mark all the way up to the 6-minute grand finale, which is the title track. Now, we heard a couple of tracks from this album already. In fact, the first two, Imminent Death and Symptom of Terminal Illness, and both of which, really, they explain what Dillinger does more perfectly than perhaps any reviewer could, more perfectly than any words really could. And it's that real controlled chaos, that mathcore destruction, that unique taste, their unique tone that Dillinger has always been able to grant their listeners and has always been able to concoct. Something that doesn't really feel like they're ever pulling the same trick twice. There's always minor difference here and there. Sure, there's a core philosophy. There's a core sound that is buried underneath all of this. However, whenever it comes to truly feeling like there is a trademark Dillinger, you almost have to look at everything that they do as trademark, considering they're making up and really securing and patenting new trademarks along the way. And really, the destruction at the end of Imminent Death, the very first cut, whenever you hear those vocals become more tortured, more anguished, chaotic, it's definitely almost a metaphor of being torn away from the idea of a career. It's almost the idea of being torn away from something that you love. So really, there's one side right there. The other side is perhaps that voice representing us being torn away from a group that we've loved and respected over their 20-year career. Just a couple of different ways to look at it. Probably not what the actual track's about. That's not really the point. Moving forward, we get some interesting nature with Fugue, and this is actually a bit of a setup to what you get a little later on down this album. This is one that has a very industrial sort of, it's a strange experiment. It's one that's meant to be more of a break after the first 3 songs, one thing not so much as two. Ow, my head. Is a 5-minute song that precedes it, and it's one whose chaos is only really corrupted further by the fact that it seemed like it's like a landmine explosion during a lot of these moments, and it's not something that we're going to necessarily run from later. In fact, we're just going deeper into the minefield. But Fugue is such a sort of difference maker, considering it has this rugged instrumental, exterior, this industrial feel that's got some clips and blips and notches that you would almost see in the electronic universe. This is one that you'd almost feel like Mike Patton came into the room and said, you know what, I have a really fucking weird idea and I think you guys should do it. And, of course, Mike Patton having a bit of a history with this band, it's just kind of an interesting comparison. This definitely rings a little bit of that weirdness that a Patton is able to bring forward. Only Dillinger is able to do so with spades. Going into Low Fields Boulevard, this is immediately something I have to mention, considering right in the middle of the song, I feel like I was transformed into a Dillinger Escape Plan themed episode of Hey Fucking Arnold with that jazz drop. What the hell was that? I loved it. It was absolutely one of its kind. Very, very cool. I'm always a fan of bands that want to toss in something random. It's why Between the Buried and Me, at their most chaotic peaks, with albums such as Colors, are so well respected because they make things like that work. It works here on Low Fields Boulevard as well. Just an overall really strong song going into Surrogate. And then there's Honeysuckle, this track that feels almost like that old adage that DEP is sort of one step away from being mathcore Deftones. And that's what this song really grants reminders of, and you get that a little bit more even within Manufacturing Discontent, which is also a highlight because, god damn! The riffs that are presented, the overall chaos is one thing, but the riffs are also damn good as well, considering right in the midst of tracks, they can decide to slow down or really tamper with the tempo and gives it something a little bit more. You're not just dealing with 4 minutes of absolute insanity. No, instead, this control, this sense of real, I guess, being at the reins of these songs is so strong that you almost wish that DEP was not leaving. You wonder how they could harness this energy even further and perhaps make even tighter timing possible. But then you get to Nothing to Forget, which is the second to last song on the album. And I changed my tone of voice for this, considering midway through this song, we get to clean singing, which is excellent, by the way. There's no knock on this. But you're starting to get that idea in your mind, and you're starting to understand by looking at how much time is left that it's almost over. And the strategic placement of this song has to be deliberate, because you start to get, somber. There starts to be a bit of a melancholy that awashes you, even though this beautiful, clean vocal line is being, sort of overdosed within your ears. It's something that does bring a little bit of that morose feeling. It's so beautiful that you don't want this to be it. You're getting that realization psychologically that your time with hearing new Dillinger material, at least for right now, is nearly complete. And it is something that, as a major fan of the band, will cause those emotions. Now, for those that are just, casual, it might not mean much to you. But whenever you take a listen to this track, by comparison to some of the others on this disc, is it any surprise that this is how this disc is ending? And I further cement that with the epic nature of the title track, the 6-minute final song. One that swirls with strings, one that has a more down-tuned, a very sort of stripped and distant approach to it. Again, letting that clean vocal really taking the reins. This is more of a traditional rock song. This is not one that has the mathcore chaos. This will infuriate some people, but it shouldn't. Because once again, it is an exercise in beauty that turns into an exercise of emotion. And with the final tones being delivered with just voice, without a single instrument in sight, something that seems so anti-Dillinger Escape Plan, something where that wall of sound always seemed to be an ever-present friend, to have just a singular voice with a bit of a choral effect on it, announce the end of Dillinger Escape Plan's career with its final lyrics. It leaves you a bit awestruck. This band has accomplished so much throughout their career and has definitely brought awareness to being experimental in music. With Dissociation, they've kind of taken that one step further, and that was what was necessary. If you're going to go out, you might as well give a gift that's going to keep giving to the future generations, and that's exactly what the EP did with this disc. It's exactly what they did. They performed an opus that they spent a lot of time on, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears on, and once they knew that this was going to be their final hurrah, you can definitely tell that they stepped it up one notch further. They aimed not just to be competent within themselves, but they aimed to supersede everything that they've ever done. And I think that they've gotten close in that endeavor. Some may disagree, some may still claim Ironworks or one of the other albums as superior, but this one has enough variety, this one has enough chaos, it has enough of the trademarks, while also, as I said earlier, writing and patenting new ones, to continue to deliver inspiration for future generations. If we never hear another thing from Dillinger Escape Plan ever again, if the retirement and the breakup actually lasts, as it so often does not in rock and heavy metal. This is a final tome that is worthy of that title. They said they wanted to go out on top. They definitely did. At least whenever it comes to their discography. 93 out of 100. This is a terrific disc. This is not one that's soiled by the fact that it's a final album, but it is one where you are emotionally charged based around it. Especially whenever you get to those final 2 tracks, Nothing to Forget and Dissociation. I want to know what you guys think about Dissociation by Dillinger Escape Plan. I also am interested in your thoughts on their career, what they've meant to you, what they've meant to music. Let me know all those things in the comments below. My name is coverkillernation, and Dillinger, if you do happen to check out this video, thank you for all of the wonderful years of music. You definitely left us with a hell of a final disc. We appreciate it as fans. We appreciate it as music lovers. You guys will never be forgotten. Thanks, everybody, and take care.